Welcome to our sixth Lunch and Learn session in this year's Teacher Bordered Classroom series from the Educational Service Center of Northeast Ohio. I'm Stephanie DeMichael, and I've spent 24 years developing new ways to do old things and the last 7 years supporting teachers as they've shouldered that task too. All information from today will be available via a Wakelet board I've curated, and the link is below in the comments. I should also take this opportunity to mention that I offer free, yes, free, virtual coaching sessions and office hours, so use the Linktree link to get in touch after today. Let's get started. We've survived 21 months of uncertainty. We've been challenged and frustrated, but that's what learning is supposed to do: challenge us and make us better. And so, in addition to supporting teachers, I've also been researching the questions: what worked, what didn't, and most importantly, what did we learn to do better moving forward? Here's what I've been advocating: embracing blended learning. I've recorded a session on this, and you can find it on my YouTube channel under my Lunch and Learn playlist. One of the modalities of blended learning touted as a method to enable engagement and agency in the classroom is the idea of a whole group rotations, a modern spin on the old lab rotation model, where the online station occurred in the computer lab and everyone had to get up and move to the school's computer lab. But before we get into a detailed explanation of the whole group rotation model, let's briefly review what blended learning looks like. According to the Christensen Institute, a nonpartisan think tank, it's this: blended learning involves leveraging the internet, meaning some learning is done online, to afford each student a more personalized learning experience, both at home and in school, including increased student control over the time, place, path, and/or pace of learning. This last part is key and is a natural and logical outcome of the first two. So, what is it about whole group rotation? Well, now that many schools have adopted one-to-one policies, laptop carts, or bring your own devices, where we once had to shift an entire class to the computer lab for the online station, we can simply rotate the class through a series of online and offline activities without ever leaving the classroom. This is especially helpful if your school's current policy prevents movement from station to station because of COVID restrictions. This model is also a smart option if you're new to the station rotation model or even new to blended learning. I should also give credit where it's due. Dr. Catlin Tucker, author of a number of books on blended learning, is the go-to expert on all things blended learning. And I highly recommend you subscribe to her blog at catlintucker.com. The ideas that we're going to discuss today come from this specific book, Blended Learning in Action. There are a number of benefits of using the whole group rotation instead of the station rotation model, which, if you're unfamiliar with the station rotation model, be sure to check out my last Lunch and Learn episode. Firstly, a whole group rotation uses online learning to create personalized learning experiences for students, perfect for differentiation. Secondly, depending on time or physical limitations, the whole group rotation model provides for easier classroom management. And finally, the whole group rotation affords teachers the opportunity to more effectively gauge comprehension and mastery. So, to be a coach, in other words. Here's an example of a very generic whole group rotation lesson. The first station or chunk of the lesson plan depicts teacher-led instruction, 5, 6, 7 minutes tops. And then the group rotates to the next chunk of the lesson plan, where they use their devices to access online platforms, curriculum, or adaptive software. You might notice from this example that a whole group rotation is something you might already be doing. So, what makes it a true example of blended learning? Well, ask yourself the following. One, does your lesson plan leverage the power of the internet? Two, does your lesson afford each student a more personalized learning experience? And finally, three, does your lesson plan include increased student control over the time, place, path, and/or pace of learning? If the answer to any of these questions is no, then your lesson plan is not a blended learning one. I encourage you to pause here if you'd like to take a closer look at this sample math lesson to get a better idea of how simple a whole group rotation can be. To make lesson planning incorporating the whole group rotation model easier for teachers, I've created a drag and drop template modeled after one created by Dr. Catlin Tucker. Please allow me this opportunity to walk you through one I've created specifically for this Lunch and Learn. Okay, so let's take a quick look at this. This is a lesson planner for teachers, and it's a simple drag and drop. Um, and you'll notice here, over here in the gray area, I have different ideas of things that you can do for your introductory activities. So, for example, explanation and modeling, or an in-class flip, or crowdsourcing. And crowdsourcing is awesome. It's one of my faves. It's where instead of the teacher being the expert, the teacher poses a question and some resources or links, and then the students come together to become the expert, to find the answers and to become the expert in the classroom. So, and you can also type in your own idea here. But what makes this easy is that you simply just drag and drop right over here. Okay. And then what you'll do next to it is go ahead and type in a brief description of your activity. And you would do that by adding a text, just go ahead and typing something in there. Also, you would want to have some kind of group activity. All right. And so that could be anything from collaborative problem solving, a lab or experiments, makerspace, group discussions, or your idea. Okay. And because it's blended learning, at least one aspect of this has to be an online activity. So it could be individual practice with something, could be working together on a Google Doc together, watching a video through Edpuzzle, practicing in IXL or other types of adaptive software, or maybe you've got your own idea. And so we're just going to simply drag it over there. And then you'll type in all of your ideas. Okay. And then for your exit activity, it could be something as simple as an exit ticket or your idea. And then there you go. You have a simple lesson plan. You could also go ahead and, I'm a big fan of showing kids what's behind the curtain. Sometimes we keep our lesson plans very secretive, and I don't know why, but you could sort of share this with the kiddos too to keep everybody on track. I've also included a timer here. I always like to display a timer when I'm doing any type of rotation with students so that they're aware of how much time they have left. And then what I've also included in this lesson planner template is an example of something I've done myself. So for example, this was a lesson I did on music of the 60s and counterculture. So we had a short video and discussion, and I've typed in all of the activities students would need to know, a small group activity, individual practice, and the exit ticket. So again, it's something that, the one online aspect, again, what makes this whole group is that the online aspect doesn't need to be physically getting up and moving to the computer lab. It's still sort of that thing, but you also, again, with the blended learning, one of it has to be online. You want to give students some pace and path over their learning. I think that's why individual practice too is so important. And again, this is a really simple station rotation lesson planner, but I hope it gives, and you can, take it and modify it and do anything you want with it, but I hope it gives you some kind of idea of what yours could look like. But it's just an easy way to get started. I know a lot of teachers are very hesitant to get started with the station rotation model, so I always recommend starting with the whole group first and getting started with just the drag and drop. And there you have it, a simple, manageable whole group rotation lesson planning template. I hope that the idea of whole group rotation allows you to let students explore and to be a very present part of their own learning, because it allows you to do what you do best, be the supportive coach. And because this is a lunch and learn, I always like to share out lunch ideas for teachers that are healthy and easy. And this week, in keeping with the planning template theme, I've got a link for easy meal prep lunches if you're a prepper or if you'd like to get started on being one. These Greek chicken bowls, I've made them myself for meal prep for lunch, and they are seriously yummy. And they're so much more interesting than a boring peanut butter and jelly sandwich. And finally, again, if you need anything, the first link will connect you with all my socials, so feel free to reach out at any time. The second one connects you to my Wakelet board with links to the things that we discussed today. I'm Stephanie DeMichael. It has been an absolute pleasure to be here with you for this week's Lunch and Learn. Good luck with your teacher-boarded classroom. See you next time.